Ladies, gentlemen, and others, welcome back to Boss Comics. I'm going to get right to the point today. Somebody left a comment on one of my more recent, decently successful videos, that being my review for Pandemic from ya boy Zach, aka Richard C. Meyer, aka weakest pullout game in the known universe. And the comment was kind of snarky, and it just got like snarkier because I made the mistake of responding. But it started with like, Richard Meyer is a good person. And I took exception to that, not because I necessarily think it's wrong. There was a whole back and forth between us because I said that like I had, I thought that Richard Meyer probably is a good person overall, but I thought that he had a few shortcomings that I found particularly frustrating, and one of the big reasons why I no longer really follow him. And chief among them, I think he's really irresponsible with the ideas he perpetuates about the coronavirus. But, none of that is like really here or there. In my video, I don't think I really made much in the way of moral judgments against the guy. I think I did a pretty good job of staying on task, like reviewing the book, at least the story. I didn't have much at the time to say about the art. I've gotten to know Renzo Rodriquez a little bit better on Facebook since then, and I will say, like, his art's pretty dope. I just don't think that he brought necessarily his A game to Pandemic, although that might even be a question of, like, not having the best script to work with. I don't know. I like his art. I just didn't like it in Pandemic. But anyway, my feelings on Richard and his stupid fucking ideas about COVID-19 did affect how I saw the book. Putting aside my personal feelings, I still thought the overall product, at least in terms of storytelling, was very mediocre and woefully overpriced. But, it was hard to, I couldn't deny that, like, my personal feelings did play a factor in there. And I think that when it comes to things like this, they typically do. And anybody who says they don't, they're fucking lying to you. So considering, oh, right. So I wanted to make this video because, it got me thinking, like, fuck that guy and his dumb comments on my video. Like, he didn't really contribute anything of substance. But I do owe him a small measure of thanks because, he got the gears turning in my brain about a topic that I haven't really addressed properly before. That being the idea of separating art from the artist when it comes to things like indie comics, especially. See, comics, at least as far as I've been able to observe, is a very insular sort of group, especially in the mainstream. I think in the indie scene, there's a little bit more freedom to be who you're going to be and make your own way and kind of just chill, or grill, I guess is the saying. I just want to grill. But even as a very very much like a passionate leftist, I can recognize that there's a certain amount of cancel culture in mainstream comics. I think a lot of people on the left like to pretend there isn't one. I don't agree with that. I think cancel culture is very real. I've seen it happen like firsthand. Like I would see artists and writers who, okay, perfect example, right? So, your boy Zach, for a while, was trying to make this hashtag called Move the Needle into a thing. And it would, because he had a dispute with some comics pro who said, like, your comics don't matter unless you can move the needle or whatever, in terms of sales. So then, Meyer tried to prove a point. He told his followers, because I think he was still on Twitter at the time. And he said, hey, like, guys, buy the books that you care about, buy the books that you think aren't, to use like his whole thing, SJW trash, like buy the stuff you think is good, put it out there for, and take a picture and post it on Twitter with the hashtag Move the Needle. Like, let's show them what people are actually buying. That was the idea behind the hashtag. you could make some arguments that maybe it was charged with some of Richard Meyer's like personal beliefs, but like the hashtag, like all hashtags generally become bigger than their creator. Like the idea stands alone. So, he puts it out there. And there were at least one or two prominent figures, I think, who made the mistake of retweeting something that had the move the needle hashtag involved there. And they were crucified on Twitter. It was like, how dare you move this, use this hashtag, which is part of a quote unquote hate group, I still kind of waffle back and forth how I feel, on how I feel about this idea of Comicsgate as a hate group. I think if you put a gun to my head, I don't think Comicsgate is a hate group. I do think it's a shit show. And I think there are people within Comicsgate who treat people pretty horribly. But that's not really the topic of this video. So, I saw like cancellation firsthand. But then I've also seen like people within Comicsgate kind of do a form of canceling as well, right? So people got mad at Sean Gordon Murphy because when pressed about Comicsgate, well, this is what happened. So it wasn't like reverse canceling. It's another thing, right? Like Sean Gordon Murphy was putting out an Indiegogo for his book, like Plot Holes. And then he got pressured to condemn Comicsgate, because I think people saw that he was getting a lot of support, from the Comicsgate crowds. And so his mainstream peers were like, hey, you gotta denounce this hate movement once and for all. And so he caved because he's Sean Gordon Murphy. He kind of had the golden ticket at the time. And, he didn't want to fuck that up. I don't blame him. So then he's like, hey, I stand against bigotry and hatred and all this other shit they're telling me the Comicsgate is all about. And of course, it didn't really placate the people who were mad at him because it never does. But it did piss off a lot of people who had backed his book. And I remember like he was on track to make like considerably more money than he ultimately did. I know he got a lot of canceled pledges over that because, see, I don't know. It was like when Luke Skywalker, wow, I'm just calling him Luke Skywalker, Mark Hamill course corrected. He was talking to mad shit about the new Star Wars movies. And then at a certain point, he just completely pivoted and was like, I've spoken with Rian Johnson since then. I much better understand The Last Jedi now. And too many people had like cactuses up their butts, or cacti, I should say. And they were saying how, oh, look, he's a Disney shill in the end, like all of them. Like, you fucking idiots. Like, Mickey Mouse showed up to his house with a baseball bat. Can you guys not recognize that for what it is? The man would like to continue working. Holy shit. Like, you got to play the game, like we say, everything is political, and we mean that in more ways than one. But, when you go through all this shit with Comicsgate and you see that this cancel culture does in fact exist, both among fandoms and within the industry itself, it's hard to talk about this idea of separating art from artist, right? It's a great idea in principle, and I agree with it wholeheartedly. Right, like perfect example. Rurouni Kenshin is one of my favorite anime of all time. I've never read the manga, but I love the anime, even with all of its cheese. It's just this feel good fucking shonen manga with like, this wandering samurai who just wants to help people and is vowed never to kill again. It's just full of hokey goodness. I love it so much. And apparently the creator of the original manga was busted with a metric fuck ton of CP in his house. Holy shit. Right. So now Rurouni Kenshin for a lot of people is forever tainted by this idea of what the creator most likely is. I haven't really read up on like following that case, but like that was the idea at the time anyway, when he was arrested. Like, oh, fuck, we can't ever look at this man or his work the same ever again now. Like it's ruined, possibly forever. So, that's another instance where it's like, okay, yeah, I get the idea of separating art from the artist, but it's really hard to separate those two things. But then I wonder, like, how frustrating must that be when you're being maligned for shit that, like, isn't really fair. It isn't your fault. Like the Sean Gordon Murphy situation, right? Like, dude was caught between a rock and a hard place. It's easy to say, like, oh, you should have just thrown him with Comicsgate. Most of these Comicsgate books, I will say, like, they make respectable money. They make enough money that their creators can, like, at the bare minimum, it seems like, make the next one. Like, they seem to at least break even, and a lot of them make a decent profit. Not everyone makes Richard Meyer money or Doug TenNapel money. Fuck Doug TenNapel. I hate that man so much, but I can't deny the fact that he's incredibly successful. Most people aren't making that kind of money, but they're making a decent amount of money. But even with that, like, these people like Sean Gordon Murphy, you think he wants to give up his fucking access card to mainstream comics? This whole like Indiegogo boom, or the Kickstarter shit, this is all like really uncharted territory. It's gonna be a while before we see any sort of real mass exodus from mainstream to the indie books. Like, that's not gonna happen like tomorrow or even next year or the year after that. It's for a lot of reasons, cancel culture being one of them. So then we're going to bring this back to Richard Meyer, right? Because I'm kind of jumping around here, like talking about different facets of cancel culture within different contexts. And not just cancel culture, but of course, this idea of separating art from the artist. So I was reading Pandemic, and because I knew what Meyer's views were regarding masks and this pandemic, and I knew how fucking wrong he was, because he would never shut up about his views too. That's the thing. Like, I didn't like seek this shit out. Like, he doesn't shut up about them, or at least he wouldn't when I stopped watching him. And I still sometimes, because I'm still very much in comics YouTube, I still see like his community updates like pop up in my shit from time to time. And the guy still goes off like bitching about masks. Like, oh my God, he whines. He whines so much, Mr. Fucking, I was in the Marines. Why are you such a baby then, Zach? Holy shit. So it's really hard to then see something that's like an obvious propaganda piece, like Pandemic, And I consider it a propaganda piece. How the fuck does one separate art from the artist in a situation like that? I think the easy answer is just like, you can't. I think what is important, like, when we're talking about art, separate art from artists, like, I think what we're really saying a lot of the time when we talk about that is not, don't let your views on the creator affect the work you're consuming, but like, you have to be able to recognize where one ends and the other begins, right? Like, I have to really be diligent when I'm reviewing a work. I mean, I don't have to, right? Because the whole idea of an objective review is fucking stupid and intellectually dishonest, and really serves no purpose, if you ask me. Like, objective reviews are boring and stupid. But no, like, generally, people want to know that you're giving a book a fair shake when you're reviewing it. So I feel like it's my responsibility on this channel and other platforms I might have to at least acknowledge, where my criticisms of the man are. And then, what are my problems with this work? And do my criticisms of the man, like, how are they coloring my judgment? I don't have to like separate those two in so much as like not allow them to exist, in the same space. But I just feel like if I want to be intellectually honest, I have to really be diligent at picking out where those two things meet, right? And I don't know, in that review, I think I did a pretty good job. Homeboy was all like, well, he's a really good man. He probably is, but that doesn't matter. That doesn't matter. It has nothing to do with the quality of this book, which I thought was largely garbage with art that, was way too fucking good for it, honestly. I don't know, man. We talk about separating art from the artist a lot, but I think that especially as the, kind of indie comics renaissance continues to bloom, I think what it means to do that and when and how we should do that and why, I think is just becoming an increasingly more complex issue. And I have my easy answer, but I think overall, is there an easy answer? My thoughts is no. I think there's a lot going on there, and I think that anybody who tries to tell you that they have it all figured out, like, I don't know, I think they're full of shit. You know, like, especially now that pros are such public people, right? Like now, anytime I see something from Sean Gordon Murphy, like now I didn't begrudge him, you know, his denouncement of Comicsgate, you know, but I'm always going to remember that now as part of like his persona, like part of his history. That's always going to be in the back of my mind anytime I see another piece of work from him. Anything I see from Richard Meyer, I'm always going to think of that fucking jackass, like, who won't shut up about masks, you know. Oh God, who is it that's doing Thomas Valiant? That's funnily enough, that's another Renzo Rodriquez book. I forget if that's Professor Geek or if that's RJ from like the Third World. But like, again, whichever one of those is doing Thomas Valiant, whatever your opinions might be of those men and their work, but or their opinions, you know, their social media presence. Well, I'm sorry, it's going to be impossible for you to read Thomas Valiant and form opinions of it completely divorced from your opinions of them. It's just not a thing. It doesn't happen. So I think that, you know, one thing, people who still call themselves CG, right? People who still associate with Comicsgate, I think that's just something more of them need to understand. Like, you know, I know it's all stripes of people, all people from all different walks of life. But, you know, people are going to have opinions about you. And I understand this idea of like, let the work stand on its own. But the work didn't come from nowhere. You know, it didn't just pop apropos of nothing, you know, into existence in the midst of our, you know, crazy universe. It was ushered in by you. You made it happen. You know, so I think that's important for us as anybody who creates things, even YouTube videos. We have to be mindful of what kind of culture we're creating around our work, because it's going to affect how our work is consumed. And I think to pretend otherwise is foolishness. That's my stomach. Good thing I ordered food. Anyway, I'm going to wrap this up here. Let me know in the comments. What do you think? Art from artist, is that a separation that you are capable of making? Where do you think it begins and ends? Do you think that we should make a separation at all? Do you think that you can, do you find you're capable of enjoying a book if you know things about the creator that you don't like? You know, personally, I mean, I fucking think that Orson Scott Card is a terrible person with horrible views, but I really do enjoy Ender's Game. Gina Carano, I think, has some really unfortunate views, but I still think she's really fucking hot. And also, like, seems like a really fun person to hang out with. You know, shit like that. I don't know. You guys, tell me what you think. I really want some feedback on this. Art from artist, what are your opinions? Anyway, thanks for your time. Like this video, comment, leave a comment, you know, subscribe if you're new here, or if you're not already subscribed. And if you want to support what I got going on, there's a link below where you can make a one-time $3 donation to help keep me and this bullshit trucking along. I would really appreciate it. Anyway, until next time, guys, I'll see you on Monday. Bye-bye.